There is one thing that stops 99% of people from reaching their true potential as an endurance athlete, and that thing is burnout. Most people don't know that burnout is 100% preventable if you know the underlying neuroscience. And what's more, there's a way to structure your day and your training so no matter how hard you push or how hard you train, burnout becomes an impossibility. I'm Nick, a former professional triathlete, physiotherapist, and elite performance specialist. And I've taught thousands of athletes how to achieve peak performance at will. Picture this, you go out for a run and your energy and enthusiasm are high as you take the first few steps. But as the miles stretch on, your legs start to feel heavier, each step becoming more laborious. The finish line seems endlessly out of reach. What once felt achievable now feels insurmountable, leaving you exhausted and struggling to find your original passion and purpose. The next day, you miss your workout, and then the day after that, and the days start to turn into weeks. All the progress that you've made have now been lost because you have not been training for weeks or even months. So what's going on here? The real problem is something a psychologist professor called Amika Golkar found in a study from 2014. She found that people with burnout struggle to manage their emotions and manage upsetting situations. This means that they have a harder time handling negative emotions. Brain scans revealed that in those with burnout, the amygdala, a part of the brain involved in emotional responses, is larger than usual. Also, the connections between the amygdala and other brain areas important for handling emotions are different. These brain areas are essential for managing emotions and making rational decisions, explaining why you suddenly feel it so much harder to stay motivated. You see, burnout isn't just fatigue or an inability to motivate yourself. Burnout is a recognized and distinct medical disorder. And once you know the characteristics of burnout, you'll know if you're at risk, how to eliminate it, and how to guard yourself against it so you'll never have to experience it in the first place. There's three things that make burnout distinct, and those are equilibrium, malice, and self-determination. And you don't want to make the mistake that most people make, and that is to think that all of their burnout is just from one overload trigger. So many athletes take a little time off and then they come back and boom, they're burned out again. This leads to this constant stopping and starting, mitigating any progress that they could have made if they had just stayed consistent. And the reason is that they're susceptible to multiple burnout triggers. So we have to address them all. And even better, prevent it from creeping in the first place. So let's cover 3 neuroscience-backed protocols to alleviate any burnout currently in your system and buffer yourself against burnout over the long term so that you can become so fit that you question if more training will even make a difference. Our first weapon against burnout are equilibrium. In 2016, I was at a race in the Danish National Triathlon Series. During the swim, I suddenly felt like I could not breathe. I felt my heart rate go way up and I thought that I was going to pass out. I pushed through, but once I got to the run, I had to stop and I threw up. I was dizzy and everything felt distorted, and I felt like that for days afterwards. Later, I had a talk with my coach about it, and he asked me about my allostatic load. Completely confused, I asked him what in the world is allostatic load. He told me that just like we have a physical capacity of what we are capable of, we also have a mental capacity of what we are capable of, and that is called the allostatic load. And just like if we push ourselves to the max in every single training, we will end up overtrained. If we push our mental capacities to the max every single day, then we will end up being burnt out. And what I experienced at that race was a panic attack, probably caused by too long of a period with too high of allostatic load. My trainer suggested that I started tracking my allostatic load on a scale from 1 to 5. 5 being right up there at the allostatic limit and 1 being right at the other end of the spectrum. This simple tracking reveals when you are near your limits so that before you experience burnout, you can dial it back just a bit to stay under that maximum load. That means that even though you don't go out at a 110%, you can stay in the game and keep pushing forward without getting kicked out by burnout, or even worse, like I did, by a panic attack. Objective markers like heart rate variability can also help you, and we've started using that quite a bit with professional athletes. Our second weapon against burnout are malice. Picture this, a big, beautiful oak tree in the forest. As it was growing, it had to deal with several challenges: wind blowing, heavy rain, and even hot sun. Each of these, though they may seem tough, helped this tree grow stronger and bigger. After years of this menace, the tree is now a giant, and it can withstand even the biggest storm. But if that storm had come earlier in its life, it would have been devastating. Just like the tree had to adjust to the wind, we too face small challenges every day, like completing our workouts or saying no to something like sugar. For us, the wins are the everyday stressors that we have. Things like finishing the workout plan you set out to do, or working on a new technique, or picking up a new skill. These situations can be stressful, but if they're not too much to handle, it will help you grow and become stronger. If we face these small challenges every day and we conquer them, they will help us become more adaptable, creative, and overall just more mental tough. We can apply these small challenges to our nervous system deliberately by doing something like cold showers or hot saunas, or working out at the edge of our capabilities, but just so we are in that limit and we can still conquer that training. Like the big oak tree, these experiences make us grow stronger and bigger and more resilient for when that big storm arrives. Our third weapon against burnout are self-determination. In the 1970s, psychologists Edward Deci and Richard Ryan proposed a psychological theory focused on human motivation and personality. It is called self-determination theory, and it suggests that we are highly motivated by something called intrinsic motivation. They discovered 3 things that will keep your motivation high and avoid burnout. And those are autonomy, competence, and relatedness. You experience autonomy when you have control over your training choices. This could be something as simple as deciding your running route, or it could be setting a personal goal for a specific race time, or it could be choosing to train for specific types of races like trails or marathons or 10Ks. Competence is felt when you feel the improvement in your abilities. This could be achieving personal bests in races, or it could be noticing more endurance in longer runs, or it could be something as simple as completing a challenging workout that you once felt impossible. To experience competence, it is extremely important that you measure things so that you can see if you progress, but also doing testing is really, really important, even though not all people like tests. But if you can see that you improve, you will experience this competence and you will feel invincible. You experience relatedness through connections with other people who share the same interests as you. So maybe other runners or a broader community. You can even find those on social media or something like Strava. This might involve joining a local club. I really recommend it. It's so much fun. Or just signing up for a race with someone else so that you feel like you are conquering something together. You need to find a sense of belonging and support from a community, which is my hope that you will find right here on this channel. In fact, I would love to hear what your goal is, and you can just email me right here at this email and I will be sure to get back to you. If you'll apply all these principles, then burnout becomes practically an impossibility. But there's another piece to the puzzle. Even in the absence of burnout, you need to make sure you're consistently motivated to work out hard and to force your brain to crave those hard VO2 max sessions. Then watch this video right here.